Hello, Daphne here with another video for you. This one's titled, Why Was a Visit to the World War II Memorial So Meaningful? World War II is a part of my family history. My parents lived in Shanghai, China, when the war broke out. At that time, the Japanese were pillaging China, especially brutally in Nanking. But in Shanghai, the streets were relatively quiet, and my parents' life seemed to go on with only a few alterations to their lifestyle. But their time for safety was short-lived because on that fateful date, the bombing of Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941, that was the moment when World War II became a total nightmare for my family. And it forever changed China and Shanghai, the place that they absolutely loved dearly. After the bombing of Pearl Harbor, the Japanese slowly made life in Shanghai total misery for my parents. It became a war zone. The fate of my dear parents lay in the balance. Eventually, our entire family was thrown into concentration camp by the Japanese. Many are unaware of these torture chambers. After the war, concentration camps became instantly synonymous with the horrors of what happened to the Jewish population by Adolf Hitler. Those concentration camps in Germany where millions died at the hands of that brutal, evil dictator. So because of the staggeringly large numbers of deaths in Germany and in those concentration camps, the Japanese concentration camps were less well known, but I can tell you they were equally as cruel, and there were a lot of people that died as a result. Okay, moving on. As a result of my family's connection to World War II, a visit to the World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C. with my husband was a must. You don't need a map of Washington, D.C. to find the World War II Memorial because it sits right between the Lincoln Memorial and the George Washington Monument in the middle of the National Mall. A visit to this memorial gave us a chance to pay our respects and to reflect back on this dark period in history that my family endured. The World War II Memorial is a stunning design, and that is just a really poor description. It's just impressive in every sense of the word. The designer did a magnificent job laying out a monument that is not only beautiful but so touching. And it's a tribute to the 16 million who served in the armed forces of the U.S. and to the more than 400,000 who died. And it also remembers all the people that supported the war effort from home. In my opinion, the details and symbolism represented here in this design are absolutely exquisite. For example, at each end there are two 43-foot high triumphant arches, one symbolizing the victory in the Atlantic Theater and the other the victory in the Pacific Theater. And here they are. They don't look too big in this picture, but they are very large. And in this photo, this is underneath the inside of those two arches, and above my head, and unfortunately I didn't take a picture of it, are two magnificent bronze eagles holding an amazing laurel wreath in their arms, or in their feet, I should say. And here is the victory medal below on the floor beneath them. All around this memorial are statements by President Franklin Roosevelt. Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy, no matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion. The American people, in their righteous might, will win through to absolute victory. My goodness, those were prophetic words, were they not? And thank goodness they came true. On the length of one entire side of the World War II memorial lies this impressive wall. Oh, it took my breath away. And I love this statement because it is so true. Here we mark the price of freedom. And what an enormous price there is. That anybody wanting freedom pays to have it. I was in awe standing in front of this part of the memorial. It is dedicated to those who made the ultimate sacrifice, including soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, military personnel, and all those who remain missing in action even to this day. But isn't that impressive and stunning and, just so gracious and glorious. I stood there in total awe. There's no other way to describe what I felt looking at that part of the memorial. And here's what the plaque read beside it. The price of freedom. Freedom Wall holds 4,048 gold stars. Each gold star represents 100 American service personnel who died or remained missing in the war. The 399,000 American dead and missing from World War II are second only to the loss of more than 620,000 Americans during the Civil War. Well, I had no idea that the Civil War took the lives of that many American patriots. This is a photo of my husband looking at that plaque that I just read, and a small portion of the stars that represent each one. Gosh, each one represents 100 dead. That just seems like so many, and the stars seem to go on endlessly. God bless those people who made the ultimate sacrifice, is all I could think about as I stood paying my respects to those American patriots. Now here are the very tall pillars that rim this memorial. There are 56 of them in all. Each one represents an American state, province, or territory in the order of the date in which they became part of the United States of America. Along the bottom of these pillars is a large bronze cord, symbolizing all of these states and territories and how they joined together in a united effort to win the war. And here's my husband walking by them, and here are the bronze cords, although you can't see them. That's where they're located. Now here we are in front of the pillars representing two states, the state of Texas where we live, with a big thumbs up from me, and my husband staring at the state of Wyoming, one of the most beautiful states in all of America, and a place that both of us absolutely adore. Here's a picture I took of the Lincoln Memorial from the center of the World War II Memorial. Next, we have another plaque by President Roosevelt. They have given their sons to the military services. They have stoked the furnaces and hurried the factory wheels. They have made the planes and welded the tanks, riveted the ships, and rolled the shells. That is a beautiful, beautiful statement by our president. Here's another lovely shot of the beautiful fountain that is the centerpiece of the World War II memorial, with, of course, the Lincoln Memorial in the background. Oh my goodness, this particular memorial was a very special part of our trip to our nation's capital. To visit such an incredibly impressive memorial is difficult to describe in mere words. With both my parents long gone before this memorial was ever designed or built, I could only imagine how much it would have meant for these two very patriotic Americans to stand there and pay their respect to the heroes who ended World War II and brought them home safely from prison camp in China to the home of their birth, the beloved United States of America.